Yo, what up? It's Moses. In this video, we have a very special guest, and we're going to be talking about how to use the death current and death energy to manifest love, wealth, and healing into your life. Now, before we get into this video, I do want to say that death is omnipresence. Death is omnipresent. When we go through life, we have death constantly surrounding us, not in a negative way, not in a positive way, but in a neutral way. Biologically, whenever you learn something new, brain cells begin to grow. And as those brain cells grow, brain cells die. Whenever you get a new opportunity, the old self dies. Whenever you start a new relationship, that's death there. Death is omnipresent. When you get that new job, you got that job. The person who really needed it, the person that was in a position that might have been more qualified, that might have been in a position to help that company or what have you, that's death. You have to understand it's nothing negative, it's nothing positive. Somebody might have departed from your life, somebody might have been brought into your life. That's that death energy. It's a shame that you didn't take advantage of it. But on this video on today, we're going to show you how to use these energies to elevate your life and to bring yourself to a new understanding. And who better to speak on this concept, whether it be metaphorically or whether whether it be the physical manifestation, than my special guest, my mentor, the Death God. Of course, we're having some technical difficulties, but this is for the people. Hey, what's up, man? We there?
What's good? What's good? What's going on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Sweet, sweet. Facebook is bugging on my end a little bit, but it's all good. It is all good. We are here now.
I get you, man. So I'm inviting a few people and
Okay.
letting the people know where we are, what we're doing. So, I mean, my next point was just trying to connect with everyone. As far as death, even on the right hand path, even for the Christians, the Jews, the Muslims, these people that you worship, these entities, these energies that you worship, we have to
Right.
understand that they wouldn't have any significance in your life, not in your personal life, and these people's life had it not been for the energy of death. Jesus would not
Exactly.
be Jesus if it was not for death. So
Mm-hmm.
it's something that has to be respected. Even for the Buddhists, even for the people on that middle path. You can't
Yep.
reach that next level metaphorically, escaping these heavens, these hells, this state of anger, escaping the
Exactly.
mind of materialism, if it's not for that death energy. And then everybody on the left hand path, you know how that goes. So
Right.
you get it. So
Mm-hmm.
jumping right into it, man. Why don't you give the people a little history, what you do, who you are, how you found this, or how this path found you, rather.
Gotcha. Well, first of all, thank you to the host for having me here. Thank
Sure.
you to everybody who's tuning in and who will tune in. My name is Micah, and I commonly go by the name the Deaf God. I'm a necromancer, a black magician. I'm whatever you want me to be. And so, how I found this path is a doozy. I started off as a Christian, and I was a
Mm-hmm.
faithful, devoted Christian, Pentecostal, charismatic sector of that whole branch. And I started off with that since I was a kid in the year, I want to say 2005. And I started there. I was actually preaching at a certain point to different
Word.
churches because I was just committed. Like I genuinely had a love for it, you know? And I remember I was at the mall here in Texas. And, you know, Christians will go around witnessing to people, trying to convert them to their religion. That's exactly what I was doing. And I was talking with this young white dude. He was an agnostic. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's a person who doesn't believe in neither heaven or hell. Almost like an atheist, but they just believe that it just isn't there, you know, that shit doesn't apply to them. And so we was having a conversation, a very spicy conversation, going back and forth. Like I'm going at him with scripture. He's coming at me with sheer logic, nothing but logic. And I remember he said one thing that stuck with me. Why do you believe what you believe?
Mm.
And at first, I didn't really process the question because, you know, as a Christian, you're just stuck on scripture. You're just hurling fucking Romans 8:28 and all this other kind of shit at them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But after our conversation, about a week later, that question came back to my mind, and I started thinking about it. Why do I believe what I believe? Did some research on different world religions. It's already stepping outside Christian territory. And it came to my attention that I believe what I believe simply because I was told to believe it.
Yeah.
Like there was no higher logic to it. And I'm gonna clarify what I mean by higher logic in just a minute. But I researched world religions, Buddhism, Islam, black magic, all that. And eventually I landed on Satanism.
Right.
And that right there, the first time I landed on that, it did scare me off in a way because I knew I was going, quote, too far if we go by that religious paradigm.
Of course.
But as the darkness does, it has a way of bringing you back. And so I started to have this craving for power, as 99.9% of people who come to the left-hand path do. And I followed that craving and started studying Satanism, getting familiar with it, seeing how it works, how witchcraft works. And it's like a light switch turned on in my mind. Like, this is the way to make the changes I am looking for. Because the way I was doing it before, i.e., praying to a deity that was leaving me out in the cold, was not working. And this is the thing that I realized. It takes more than faithfulness and love for a deity to pay the bills.
Right.
It takes actual power, strength of self, and strength of will. And that's why I joined Satanism. So at my base, I am a Satanist. But what I've learned from the years I've been doing this is that just because it is dark power does not mean shit gets easier at all. In some cases, it can make things way more difficult, but it's for a reason. And that reason is to test your commitment. In a way, it is a test of faith. But you develop strength of will. You develop strength of mind, strength of character, strength of self to make. You see what I'm saying?
I definitely do.
So with that, from Satanism into necromancy. Necromancy is a path of power, real true power. It is a path, one of many, and is a very difficult path. But the ultimate point of necromancy is not so much power, it's to learn to face your own death without fear. Let me give an example. Let's say, and you know, God forbid this happens to anybody, but let's say you are walking down an alleyway and somebody tries to rob you and they are holding you at gunpoint. You staring down the barrel of that gun and countless emotions are running through you, mainly fear. Now, if you decide not to give the person what they want and they pull that trigger and you're in fear, what will happen is that you will become an earthbound spirit, i.e., your spirit will become trapped here and you will be unable to move on.
Mm.
Let's say you tell the person no, but you don't have fear. That will enable you to be liberated in death. That's how you achieve a truly glorious death. You see what I'm saying?
I
So,
get that.
necromancy is not so much about craving power, that is an aspect of it, and a very fun aspect of it, if you ask me. But there is a higher purpose to it, which is developing yourself, developing strength of character, being a truly decent human being. Just because a person delves into black magic doesn't mean they're evil. The magic simply expresses who they are inside. If you're a inherently good person, you're going to use it for good. It might be a different kind of good, but it will be good nonetheless.
Right, which is what this whole video, this whole interview is about.
Exactly.
Pretty much understanding that if you know how to heal, you can't be the best healer unless you have the principles of hurting or baneful magic. If you don't have those tactics and those strategies and that knowledge
Big facts.
within you, so you do have to have that duality. You do have to have that balance. Satanism, not inherently bad. It's something that is expressed through the wielder of that sword. So we do have
Yeah,
to understand that for all the people that are love and light and fluffy and all of that, of course I have love for you. That doesn't necessarily
exactly.
mean that you're good, but I still fuck with you at the end of the day. How can I
Right?
not? All the people that are dark, of course, firsthand, I do know that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a negative person. I know a lot of people that are Satanists, excuse me, Luciferians, vampires that are
Yeah,
more positive than the love and light and the glitter type of people.
exactly.
So what we do have to understand is where this came from. So where do you think the the origin of fearing death or working with death comes from? Because from the beginning of time, we have, as a people, we have, I don't even want to use the word worship, but we have worked. We've been one. We've understood that there's no real separation between, excuse me, it's cold outside today, man, between life and death. So where did this fear come from as a people, as a humankind? Where did this fear, when did it stop? Was it the Catholic Church when they stopped us from understanding astrology as a respectable science? Where did this come from, do you think, or from your research?
What I would say is around the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say that is, of course, if you remember history, that's around when like the Catholic Church was really doing its thing, going after witches, Christians, all that. And the reason I say that is because of this. Their problem wasn't with the fact that people were conjuring the dead. The problem with it was that they were finding out information that they should not know by normal means, because that's the purpose of necromancy. If you think about it, the root origin of it, it is divining by the dead,
Mm-hmm.
communicating with the dead to gain information. That's where the issue came in. So they would say things like, oh, well, we're going to sanction this as unholy and this is forbidden. Well, if you look through human history, anytime something has been declared forbidden, what happens? More people start doing it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, with that, and going from the 1800s all the way till now, there is a massive fear of death, some of which is rightfully so due to the ways people die and the circumstances that come before it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they don't want anything to do with it. And the thing that they don't understand is that this, what you fear, can actually save you in some circumstances. Let me clarify what I mean by that. If a person has a fear of drowning, maybe perhaps they saw another loved one accidentally drown, or maybe in a past life they died by drowning and that fear carried over. If they do what's called shadow work, which is delving into the repressed parts of yourself to free them and take back that energy, if they do that, then they'll discover, okay, I don't have to fear this anymore because I understand what happened and how to prevent it from happening again. You see what I'm saying?
I get you. I get
So,
you.
in terms of fear, fear is a motherfucker. Like, just plain and simple, it is. Because it can warp your perception and cause you to do the wrong thing at the wrong time, which can lead to your demise, i.e., death. And that's where many people get it misconstrued. If you do the right thing at the right time, you have nothing to fear. If you do the wrong thing at the wrong time, then
Yeah.
that's where the demise comes about,
Exactly.
especially with this path.
So it's really having the knowledge and the availability, having the clarity to be able to respond and to not even react, but to respond appropriately in order to preserve yourself is
Hmm.
the essence of working with that death current. I like that, man. So, what do you think is a common myth as far as working with the death current, besides it being evil inherently, amongst more so the spiritual community, the people that profess to be spiritual?
What I think the most common myth is this, that all necromancers waste away
Mm-hmm.
physically. Now, let me address this because this is going to be funny. If you're doing necromancy the right way and you're balancing your diet, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind and your spirit, your mental health, all that good shit, then you actually will not waste away. You will actually improve physically. In the time I've been doing this, I've had inconsistent workout routines, trying to be consistent at the gym and all the other good shit. But in the time I've done this, through doing death hexing, going through magical warfare, my physical body has gotten stronger. My mind has gotten stronger. My six pack is here. Just off of that alone. And how can that be possible? Because you're working with death and your body has to adjust to it. And if you adjust correctly and you don't rush it, then your body will begin to, I don't want to say feed off of it, but it will begin to adapt to it, like a form of evolution, so to speak. Therefore, your health improves actually. Because think about this, the body itself has its own cycles where it eliminates toxic waste, right? In order to keep itself healthy. So let's say you have genetic illnesses that you don't know about, predisposition to cancer, to other viruses and whatnot. When you're working with death, that automatically gets eliminated because the energy of it is recognized as a toxic form of waste and it's
Right.
removed out of your DNA, which then manifests as you don't get sick as often. And if you do get sick, it's very minimal, like a flu or a common cold, so to speak. Your health takes on a higher level of manifestation.
So it's pretty much like having a second, just just in layman's terms, it's kind of like having a second immune system because it's already in circulation within you,
Exactly. Exactly.
which is cool. Like when I first started working with you, that's the first thing you actually told me, which is what we're gonna get into pretty soon, as far as the more material and mundane things, which is 99.9% of you guys came for the juices. But
Right.
I was first working with the death current. I was chanting Azraka, the chant I told you, Azraka
Right.
Arceya Das Lord. And randomly I was manifesting materials. I was finding money. I was getting opportunities. The relationship with my woman improved heavily. But after, I want to say 3 weeks,
Right.
3 weeks, I was tired. I
Mm-hmm.
was mostly tired more than anything. I was tired, a little bit mentally
Right.
disoriented, a little confused. But you told me, hey, just slow down with that. Make sure you get back into your Tai Chi, breathing exercises,
Yep.
and things like that, making sure to manage your own energy a little bit better. I was doing
Mm-hmm.
that chant for about at least a good 30 minutes a day, sometimes 2 hours, bro. So, as far as that, during my research, I did research on, the different death gods and entities, deities, and states of mind. Anpu, or Anubis, Santa
Mm-hmm.
Muerte, Set, Sekhmet, different entities. And from what I found was these entities more so represent Earth because
Exactly.
death is a human concept, is a human
Mm-hmm.
program. These non-human beings on this earth, they view death and life as one thing because of their limited consciousness as far as
Yep.
how they can perceive certain things. So this is one reason why death energy is so potent when trying to manifest mundane things: love,
Right.
relationships, happiness, peace, enlightenment, money, wealth,
Yep.
things like that. So can you speak on the connection between the death energy, healing, and these things that I just listed? Well, more so, how can someone that doesn't want to totally commit, how can they just put their toe in the water just to see what they can do, what they can do with the death energy?
Gotcha. Gotcha. So the first step to that is connecting to your ancestors, your
Right.
true ancestors, because these beings are the closest you can get to the death current without directly stepping into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me clarify something. A lot of people will try to give a person guidance on how to set up ancestor altars for their ancestors. No man, not even myself, can do that because they're not my ancestors. I don't know what they like. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can give general guidelines, i.e., you should have some form of liquor, tobacco in the form of a cigar. You should have a few crystals there, maybe a portrait of a specific family member you had a close relationship with there. But beyond that, that's pretty much my limit right there, just by the nature of the connection. But what I will say is that as you connect with your ancestors, whoever they may be, that's necromancy in and of its own self because you're honoring them. You receive benefits, you receive increased health, increased immunity to various diseases, whether they're magically caused or natural, including in this pandemic as well. I'm going to share a story on that in just a minute. You receive other benefits such as finding love, or even if you just want sex, if you're a guy, you just, want to get laid or whatever, all of a sudden you have more women coming to you. Also, in terms of money,
Mm-hmm.
this is where it gets interesting
Wait,
because a
hold on.
lot of
1 second, one
families,
second. Definitely share this video so more people can get this information. The fact that you're
yes,
sharing, this energy will bless you. This energy will give more back to other people as well as yourself. So make sure you commit and submit to sharing this energy, sharing this video, and thank me later. Go ahead, bro.
big facts. Now, when it comes to manifesting money, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because a lot of families, not just black families, but families, period, they go generations having curses placed upon their abundance, wealth, and prosperity, generational curses. And these can be
Mm-hmm.
very difficult to break due to the mindset that comes in. A lot of us have been brought up to believe that money is scarce, that, people can't be trusted when it comes to money and making deals, or some people even have verbally abusive family that tell them, oh, you're never going to make this amount of money because Johnny never made this amount of money. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And so
Of course.
with this, as you honor your ancestors, all that begins to break. It's a slow process. I'm not going to even cap. It is a slow process, but it is a effective process. Now, one of the ways you can do this is by gathering what is called ancestor money. This comes in two forms, or yeah, two prominent forms. The first form has a Chinese man's face on it. This is the Jade Emperor, and it has Chinese writing on it. It's called Hell Notes, and people over in China burn this for the dead, especially around Halloween, as a form of honoring them. This is the real reason why you burn ancestor money. Wealth, prosperity, and abundance does not stop after death. And there are things on the other side that the energy of abundance has to pay for in order to get shit done for you and for other people, as nothing in this world or in the afterlife is free except energy. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So this ancestor money is a way of paying for that. You make sure your ancestors are straight so they can have whatever they have in the afterlife, and they'll make sure you are straight so you can have what you want and need in this life. That's the first step to manifesting money. Another thing with this is just our currency in general, at least in America. If you look at it, you have dead people on the currency, the founding fathers.
There you go.
This is this is one of the purest forms of necromancy right here.
Exactly.
You have fucking Washington, Lincoln, Benjamin, all that. So if you look at the history of America, you'll find out that the founding fathers were Freemasons. They were sorcerers. Some of them were Satanists. Then you can look at the layout of Washington, D.C. and see that the monuments and the major buildings, the layout is in the shape of an inverted pentagram. That's enough proof right there. You know what I'm saying? So as you are finding this out, it occurs to you that, hey, I can probably honor them since I'm pretty much on their territory, and maybe they'll help. That's exactly what I did, and they did help me out. As a matter of fact, they connected me with my best friend, who is a high priestess and a 32nd degree Freemason. Yes, that's just one manifestation of it. And through her help, my finances have been changing for the better. Slowly, super slowly, but it's changing. And so, this is one way you can use death energy to your benefit without like having to fully initiate, you know what I'm saying, and go through all the trials and all that come with it. In terms of love, love is a very, I'm not going to say tricky, but it is a very dangerous road, so to speak, especially when you're doing necromancy. Think about this. Santa Muerte, or Santissima Muerte. She is the Holy Death. However, she has multiple aspects, or cloaks, so to speak, of different colors that rule different areas. Her red cloak deals with love, sex, bringing back broken up relationships, all that good shit, right? And the way people who work with Santa Muerte do it, it's very fiery. A lot of fiery herbs are used. Jalapeno peppers, bell peppers, cayenne pepper, black pepper, candles, all that good shit, right? So, since they're using these fiery energies, if they don't know how to control it, regardless of the fact that Santa Muerte is helping them, then the results can be very explosive in a bad way. Meaning, let's say you do a working for passion. You want more passion in your relationship. So you pull out the cayenne pepper, a fiery herb, a herb that is known to bring about passion in a relationship. You do your working, you do the spell, you call it a day. Next thing you know, you get into a very heated argument with your partner that turns into a domestic violence situation. Well, most people will say that the spell failed. No.
It worked.
It worked. It worked. Passion was brought, but it was unbridled passion. It wasn't guided into the right area. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And the very fact you're pulling in the energy of a death goddess, because that's exactly what Santa Muerte is, then the results are only amplified. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have some form of control or guidelines when you're doing love magic. You need to be specific, not so specific to where there is no wiggle room for the universe, i.e., if you're a lady, you say, I want a guy that's tall, dark, and handsome. Okay. All right. That's cool. You put out your request. Next thing you know, Tyrone comes down the corner and you get involved with them. And then you get your heart broken because you didn't know he had multiple baby mamas and all this other kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So you got to be specific, but you got to leave a little bit of room for the energies to bring you what you want in a way that suits you, that won't hurt you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing about death energy. Death energy is non-biased, meaning it doesn't favor or disfavor anybody or anything. It just does what it does. So you tell it or you work with it about what you want, and it will bring you that. But you need guidelines. That way, it doesn't poison you, just plain and simple.
Shout out to El Danielle. We just did that video on self-sacrifice, and that was a smash. So everybody go visit her. She said, "This is real. Didn't realize I was doing it, bro." She's brilliant, man. I'm telling you. But so let me ask you. So do you think? So do you think this is more of a chaotic energy or more of a? I mean, from what I was perceiving, was it's more what do they say? Chaos versus the cosmos. This is more of a like the embodiment of the chaos of humans, more of an organized energy outside of
See,
it being chaotic.
the way I would describe it is mutable. You know how in
Hmm.
astrology you have fixed signs, mutable, and cardinal signs, if I'm not mistaken.
True.
Death energy is very mutable because death is the essence of change. Something has to go in order for something new to come along. Now, think
Hmm.
about this. All the deaths that have occurred on this world, some were brought about by natural causes and happy circumstances, i.e., the passing of a matriarch or a patriarch. The whole family is gathered around. Yes, they're grieving, but they're reliving all the good times. They're saying their last words. That's the happy, the light side of death. You know what I'm saying? Then you have the other side, i.e., somebody gets randomly shot or murdered. No reason. No reason at all. They just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. The family is grieving. You know, the enemies are celebrating. It is chaotic, but it's very mutable at the same time because it's still death. It's just a fuck ton of different circumstances behind it, you know? So think about this also. Law enforcement. Two officers are, or two detectives are placed on a specific case. They need to find out who did this, why they did it, what their motive was, all that other kind of stuff.
Right.
So there is a energy of mystery shrouding the death. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so it's like death is very, very, very freaking mutable. But in certain circumstances, it can be fixed. It can be set in a particular way, especially when dealing with the occult, especially when you do it over and over and over again. You tend to bring about or set a certain energy over you and your life, which can then dictate your destiny and your fate. What I mean by that is, let's say a necromancer, young necromancer is going on his path and he's just constantly hexing individuals, albeit enemies, but they're still individuals nonetheless. He
Hmm.
gains more success. They get transitioned into the afterlife, all that good stuff. And he goes about his life doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Now, how do we think that's going to end for him? He's going to go out the same way because he set that energy through his actions, working with death energy over his life and destiny. He never did anything different. He never did anything for good, not even about morality. It is nothing to do with morality at all. It's just be mindful of the energy you're setting over yourself with your workings.
What about those people? What about those who, do you think it's different for those who set out for that to be their business and that's just, and they're just emotionally detached because that's what people pay them to do? I think it's a little bit
It
different.
is it is somewhat different. And the reason it is different is because yes, that person has their business that they do,
Mm.
but they also have other things that they do as well.
Right.
So for
They
example,
utilize it at some point.
exactly, exactly. Because don't get me wrong, there is karma.
Right.
Karma is very real, not in the Wiccan sense of, whatever you do shall be returned to you threefold. No, not in that sense, just cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
So for every, I'm not going to say that word, but for every mark that is hit in the business, you have consequences of that action. Yes, you succeeded, but now you have to make sure that you don't fall sick. You have to make sure that one of your friends doesn't get hit as a side effect of what you did. You have to cleanse your energy. You have to cut the energetic cord that traces you back to that mark, if you catch my drift. That
There you
way,
go.
retaliation does not come for you. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't understand one key aspect a lot of necromancers miss is that of justice. Death energy has huge ties to justice. Not so much about hitting the mark, so to speak, but it's about the proper energies being in the right order. That way situations can move forward. And even if you hit the mark for the right reasons, truly right reasons, you still have to make sure that no, I don't want to say enemies, but no retaliation from any spirits or entities that that mark associated with comes for you, because that's still one of them. You see what I'm saying?
I definitely
Just like
agree.
just like Bloods and Crips. A Blood can hit a mark on the Crip side, he protecting his family, all that good stuff, but he still has to watch his back to make sure those don't come for him.
So, pertaining to this topic and my next topic, I wanted to backtrack a little bit just for this one though.
Mm-hmm.
I met somebody that was, she was putting her energy out there in that way, and from what I can tell, nothing has come back for her on that level.
Mm-hmm.
She's still alive, I believe she is. But I was
Mm-hmm.
asking her, like, how can you do this based off of hearsay? As I grew a little bit later, I developed in my skills and I understood, okay, well, you can program the spell to say, for it to be, if this person is lying or if this is unjust, let the person who put that energy out there be affected. But at the end of the day, she wasn't doing that. She wasn't crossing her T's and dotting her I's. Her justification was, well, we all deserve to die at some point. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just speeding up their karma because that person's eventually. I was like, "What? You're a psychopath. I don't want to see you giving us a bad name." So,
See,
just
go ahead, man. I'm
speak.
gonna let you finish.
No, I mean, pretty much that was her justification. She didn't do any investigation. She didn't have much of a conversation, but the fact that she didn't get paid for it. There was no monetary
Mm-hmm.
gain, but her justification was, well, she's gonna die, or the mark is gonna die anyway. So I'm just speeding up her karma. I'm not really doing anything wrong because she was born, so she's gonna die. Can you speak on that type
Of
of
course.
mentality?
Because no disrespect to the person you mentioned, but they are losing in multiple ways. Um, Especially with that mentality. So let me explain something. There is a reason necromancy is considered one of the most forbidden practices to do.
Mm,
Because one, it is truly powerful. It does work. And yes, you are crossing certain boundaries, cosmic boundaries, when you are doing this. You are purposefully taking your will and influencing the life of another human being, regardless of the situation, which is a big no-no. I'm just being real with it. So in a way, yes, you are doing wrong. However, when you do this enough times, you will cease to give a fuck, period. However, in that ceasing to give a fuck, you still need to do investigation. This is why when potential clients come to me, for example, I cannot accept every single case that comes to my desk, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
because this person may be lying. This person, this mark that they're trying to get out of here may be innocent. And if I do this, then I'm going to get caught up with some more serious karma than what I would normally get caught up with. So for those necromancers out there, or potential necromancers out there, you know, you gain a sense of power with this. You really do. But you need to investigate. You need to make sure that this person you're trying to get out of here truly deserves to be out of here. If you need to do a tarot reading or you need to go to somebody who does tarot, do that because it can potentially save your life. This man right here, yes, freaking make sure you do that because otherwise you're defenseless in the truest sense of the word because your ancestors will not back a truly wrong, evil course of action. And that's why a lot of people get caught up with this game, so to speak. As a brief example, let's look at George Floyd. Not even trying to be political with this, but the circumstances were what they were. There's a lot that we don't know, especially on the spiritual level. Let's just say his ancestors were trying to get him aligned with the correct way to do things, i.e. African spirituality. Nothing complex, just honor your ancestors. You know what I'm saying? Let's say they was trying to get him aligned with that. He repeatedly chose not to. Well, in the spiritual, his ancestors got sick and tired of that. And they lined him up for the result that happened. That could be a possible scenario. So therefore, like I just said, your ancestors will not back a truly wrong course of action, especially if you ain't did no prior investigation. You're not even caring about whether the person is innocent or not. You just, hey,
For
you
the
just
money.
speeding up the process. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And it is true. Everybody has a time to die, at least on this plane of existence, because there are other planes where that does not apply. We can talk about that in another session. But, but freaking just because a person has a time to die does not mean it's time to speed up that process. This is especially seen in families and households where the older matriarch, let's say grandmother or whatever, is dying and their death is actually sped up, not to put them out of their misery, but for a fucking inheritance. That shit actually happens. That happened to
Yeah.
my best friend and
Yeah.
her mom. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so that right there, speeding up a person's death for material gain, that is a extreme violation, especially to the ancestors, and they will take the appropriate action. Now, let me tap the other side of this. If you are in a critical situation where you're going up against somebody who knows what they're doing with their magic, they have proven manifestation, and you know they can do some shit to you, yes, sometimes it is critical to speed up the mark being transitioned for the safety of yourself, those you care about, and for your future goals that you have. That's acceptable, and there's plenty of ways to go about doing that. But you have to make sure that you're using judgment, wisdom. You have to check your own self, because a lot of necromancers miss this in their craving for power. They forget to examine themselves, to know thyself before you going out trying to hit marks and all this other kind of stuff. This this is why in the modern day, especially in the African American community, you see rappers telling on themselves in their fucking music videos. They fail to know themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
man.
so if they had known themselves, they would have known, okay, I can't incriminate myself. Yes, I did this. We smoking on whatever, yada, yada. But I don't need to incriminate myself like this. It's a lack of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? That's just the physical manifestation of it. So that's what I have to say on that.
Man, I appreciate that. Make sure you guys share this video, especially if people need this
Facts.
energy and need this information. This is a whole lot of sauce, whole lot of drip, whole lot of game, whole lot of information that you didn't have to pay for. It's not free game, however, it's fee game, so it comes with a price. So just to backtrack, just to backtrack a little bit, man. From what I've seen, well, let me put a little bit of something in there for all the spellcasters. This is why a part of the reason why I stopped doing spellcasting is about a year and a half ago, is because people were not being truthful, and because I was in my feelings doing a lot of work, a lot of baneful magic for people. They
Yeah.
weren't being truthful, and I didn't really care at that point. But what I did to make sure that I didn't get any blowback was I would program my spell to say if the person who gave me this assignment was lying, let them have that same energy. And a lot of
Exactly.
people got mad at me, and my whole thing was, why did you lie? You knew
Exactly.
you knew that I didn't know. Well, okay, so how I would program how I would program certain workings was I would tell them, you shouldn't work with me if you're not prepared for this person to die
Yep.
because of your emotions and
Whew,
because of
that's
my
true.
lack of emotions towards this person because I don't know them. So,
Hmm.
worst case scenario, they could die. Do you still want me to do this? They would say yes. I would say why. They would tell me whether it be true or false, they would give me that information. It would fuel it, and they would get mad at me like, "Hey, this happened." I'm like, "But okay, if that happened to you,
Exactly.
you probably lied, so you probably deserve
Hmm.
at that same time." So going back to more on an earthly, lighter level, what
Right.
I saw was someone else was telling me just for the money rituals, for the relationship rituals, for the healing. They were
Hmm.
telling me to incorporate a little bit of graveyard dirt from an ancestor. Put it on the money. If you have a money altar, if you're making a juju bag that's specific to
Hmm.
the money, or if you're doing a love spell or a love potions, just to touch it with a hint of cemetery dirt from an ancestor's grave. Because right before I met you, um, I flew to a different state, not knowing that I actually had an ancestor, my great grandfather. His
Mm.
grave was walking distance from my fiance's house. Did not
Wow.
know that. Did not know that, bro. I got a little, actually, a considerable amount of his graveyard dirt. I have it in a little
Hmm.
jar, and I've been incorporating that in my money spells. It's been working beautifully. That's really all I do for like at this point. So can you speak on that as far as just incorporating a little bit? If you have an ancestor that has, passed on, if you have access to their graveyard dirt and they give you that permission, how can just incorporating a little bit, a sprinkle of graveyard dirt in these spells, how can that affect the potency of?
Is something of legend. Not simply because it's death energy, but if you look at it from a different perspective, especially when it comes to money.
Wait, 1 second, 1 second. Can you guys
Okay.
hear him? Let me see one thing. Oh, okay, go ahead.
All right. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yeah, perfect. And guys, if you have any questions, let us know. Definitely thank you for the cash
Yes.
apps. Thank you for the PayPal, the donations. Well, go ahead, send your questions and go ahead, man.
All right. So the potency of graveyard dirt is very, very powerful. Now, if you think about it, the cemetery is not simply our final resting place.
Hmm.
In some ways, it is a business because think about it. You have to pay for a funeral. You have to pay for the burial. You have to make sure you have insurance to cover that, or else you're paying out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
with that energy of commerce, being in the cemetery, it has penetrated the dirt. Because see, the dirt is part of earth, and earth absorbs energy. It absorbs energy into itself. So you have the death energy that's in the soil, as well as the energy of commerce and business. So if you take that from an ancestor's grave with their permission, then that same energy of commerce will be increased and attracted to you. In the physical, more money comes in, more business comes in, all that good shit. And also, you need to know who your ancestor was. Now, that seems like an obvious, super obvious statement, but a lot of people don't really know who their ancestors truly were. If they had successful businesses, if they at least had a good work ethic about them, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so you need to make sure, you need to do some family tree research or some kind of divination, channeling, mediumship, what have you, in order to find out if this person had the energy of abundance when they were alive in some capacity, because that's the secret of making that work. Because you can do the exact same thing you just did, another person can do it, and it fails, and their money gets worse because their ancestor had a broke mentality about them. They had the energy of poverty about them. They
Or
had that
death.
generational curse of poverty on them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to ways to make even that more potent than what it already is, there is a ritual that you can do that is called buying dirt from the cemetery, because that's exactly what it is. It's a transaction. And what you can do, you can bring 7 coins of any denomination, and you can bring liquor, and you can bring a cigar. And what you'll do is you'll go to that ancestor's grave, and you'll place the 7 coins there, pour out about a third of the liquor. If you cannot get liquor, yes, you can use beer, preferably whatever kind of drink that they liked when they were alive. You can pour out a third of that, and you can light the cigar and blow 7 puffs of smoke over their grave. Tobacco is a way of honoring the dead, because a lot of people, when they were alive, they smoked tobacco. That's what they like. Therefore, you honor them with what they like in order to receive favors from them. It's about equal or equivalent exchange. Once you do this, then, depending on whether your ancestor says yes or no, you can buy the dirt, grab it, place it in a bag, yada yada, and then you're free to leave. And it's already potent. You don't need to do no extra work to it. Now, granted, a lot of people do put extra herbs into it, especially when they use bank dirt or taking dirt from various banks because of the energy of prosperity and abundance. They might add a little bit of cayenne pepper into it along with black pepper. The cayenne pepper is fiery and it will speed up the results of the magic that you're doing. And the black pepper will repel any negativity, any broke mentality, hexes, curses, etc., that were placed upon your money or your wealth. And then you can do it like that. So that's how you can make it more potent.
Okay, I need you to hold on for 2 seconds, all right?
Okay.
Hold on for 2 seconds.